Joining me on Property Tribes TV is Michael Dent, who is both a landlord and a digital entrepreneur, founder of PropertyData. And Michael, you've got such an interesting story. Talk us a little bit through your personal property journey from landlord to digital entrepreneur.
Yes, so I've been a property investor for a number of years, and I've always been quite data driven in the way I make property decisions, looking for the best yields and that sort of thing. But one thing I noticed was that landlords often either aren't data driven and it's a bit of a sort of finger in the air, maybe they don't quite understand the importance of yield or something like that. Or if they are data driven, it's kind of been difficult in the past to get the data to make well-informed property decisions. So one thing that I notice a lot of my property investor friends doing is spending 30-60 minutes trawling Rightmove or Zoopla, kind of building up their own spreadsheet of comparables for a property they're interested in buying. And I just thought there's got to be a better way. And so that's the kind of where the initial kernel of the idea for PropertyData came from, is building a web app that provided a one-click alternative to that process, and kind of started this mission of helping landlords get more interested in data and making data-driven property decisions.
I just think it's so fantastic what you're doing, because there is so much intel and data out there, isn't there? And basically what your app does is just pull all that in and present it in an easy to understand format.
That's exactly right, yeah. I mean, at the moment, we're hoping to add all sorts of interesting proprietary data in the future, but at the moment it's very much data that you can get out there if you had the time, you had hundreds of hours to trawl through these things. We're pulling in data from Rightmove, Zoopla, Airbnb, Spare Room, Office of National Statistics. So it's all data that's out there, but what we're doing is turning what could have been a hundreds of hours of sort of due diligence process that realistically perhaps the big guys, the institutional investors, they got 20 people in an office somewhere, they've been doing that for years, but your average small investor is, it's not their full-time job, it's interested in building a property portfolio, 3 properties, 5 properties, 10 properties. Historically, they haven't been able to do that level of database due diligence on the property market because they just haven't had the time, and so we're trying to build a really simple, clean, nice-to-use interface that gives them the tools to do that in a fraction of the time it would previously have taken.
Indeed, and I don't think we can mention the word due diligence too much. We all know that undertaking intense research, it saves time, it mitigates risk, and landlords really do actually need, in my opinion, I'm sure you agree, to go down to a real granular level on their due diligence and get all this data and really crunch it and look at it, because as a result of doing that, they're surely going to make wiser investment decisions.
Absolutely, I obviously completely agree. Due diligence is a very important word. And another word that I think that landlords can't say too often is yield, because I think that there's a lot of landlords that maybe they understand yield, but they don't really understand the significance, how important it is, and that's one of the big things that we're really trying to tackle. So we use data to track in real time where the best yields are throughout the UK. We can tell you the different yields for a long let, short let, HMO, different types of let that you can do. And so if I had to pick one other word other than due diligence for people to really understand what it is that we do, it's that all-important metric of yield, and helping landlords get the best yield, because the difference between getting a 6% yield and getting an 8% yield makes a big difference to a landlord's bottom line, and with things like Section 24 coming in at the moment, make it more difficult for people. I think that only makes it more important. Landlords have got to grab every pound, every bit of extra margin where they can. So that's why I think it's more important than ever. Perhaps 20, 15 years ago, it was a little bit easier to just finger in the air, make your decisions, and you got lucky, you did well out of it. It's absolutely, I believe, still possible to make good money in property nowadays. People shouldn't be put off by these things like Section 24. But in my view, it means that people really need to be a bit more scientific and put a little bit more thought and data and analysis into those decisions. So it's just going to get that little bit harder, but we want to provide the tools to help people cope with that.
I absolutely agree with what you're saying, 100%. It's so important. And, using data that you can get from property data, as we said, wiser investment decisions, minimise risk, and actually stop wasting time, because if you, look at data and actually see that it doesn't stack or it doesn't meet your personal investment criteria, then there's really no point trawling around the country and looking at stuff. So let's say I was interested in investing in Milton Keynes, I was a newbie. how would you recommend that I get the most out of the Property Data app?
So what you've described is the exact sort of scenario that we think our app is really, really useful in. It's you're interested maybe in investing in Milton Keynes because someone's given you that all-important tip that it's a good area, but you don't know it very well, you've maybe been there once or whatever. So in our software you would draw an area that you're interested in, so you might start with that area being the whole of Milton Keynes. And out would come all this important headline information. So what is a typical two-bed house in Milton Keynes? Where a three-bed house, four-bed house, where are the best yields? Because sometimes the best yields are on a two-bed, sometimes they're on a five-bed. It's just, you can't know, there's no golden rule. And so our software will give you the actual data based on live, real-time market data to answer those questions. And because you can choose this custom area that you're interested in, once you've kind of found out the basics about Milton Keynes, what you'd probably do is focus down on a smaller area of Milton Keynes. Now, I don't know Milton Keynes, but that's the whole point, is I can go, well, maybe this bit to the west of this road is a bit that's more interesting for any reason. Maybe that was part of the tip you got. So you can filter down and you can compare different areas of Milton Keynes and maybe the west side of Milton Keynes has better yields. I don't know. Maybe in the west side you'd be best off doing a long let, whereas on the east side is more short let or an HMO or something like that. So, I think our software is particularly powerful when you're doing that initial research on an area that you don't know, and you want that headline analytics to understand the area, see the important stats. No piece of computer software can replace on-the-ground knowledge. Someone who's lived in Milton Keynes for 20 years, whether they're an agent or some kind of other advisor. So we would never suggest that people buy a property blind based on a little bit of analysis on our software. But what we would say is if you're interested in that area, you've got a few properties, you want to add another one in Milton Keynes, you can do some really powerful 20 minutes worth of initial research on our software. Previously, as we said, that research just wouldn't have been possible or would have taken hours and hours. So it's really a time-saving tool as much as anything else. Our subscriptions are very affordable. They start at £6 a month, and the kind of top unlimited subscriptions £24 a month. And so what we say to property investors and landlords is, if you think that 1 hour of your time, 2 hours of your time every month is the amount that you might save doing research, is worth that, then you should give it a go. And indeed, if it might help you help stop you making a decision that cost you thousands of pounds down the line, then it's probably even more worth it.
No, it's a really fantastic tool for landlords. Now, we've said two words that landlords can't say enough of: due diligence and yield. Just to finish off then, Michael, is there a third word that landlords can't say enough?
Well, the third word is probably growth and capital growth. For me, it's the most enigmatic of the words. I'm a big believer personally that the word yield should come before the word growth, because I think that a kind of well-balanced property that generates a good yield is always going to be an asset that's in demand, and it's a more realistic income-based way of making money. But that growth is important as well, and our software can give you the 5-year historical growth. Obviously, what we can't tell you is what an area is going to do in the next 10 years, but that's the bit where intuition and a bit of guesswork perhaps comes in.
Well, it's been really lovely talking to you and finding out more about the Property Data app, and we'll pop some details below the video if you'd like to find out more. But I'm sure you'll agree with me that I think we've covered some really great stuff here, Michael. So thank you very much for taking part on Property Tribes TV.
Cheers,
and
thanks.
all the best for the app.
Thanks.